One of the other things we're looking at is JoyNews investigations that has uncovered how Ghana lost thousands of cedis after confiscated cars were auctioned cheaply by politically connected individuals. At least in one case, the duty on a vehicle was captured to have been paid for by the office of the president. These vehicles are part of 151 confiscated cars that the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff Office, Frank Esiedu-Bequim, wrote to the Ghana Revenue Authority to be allocated to selected beneficiaries. Investigative journalist Kwete Nata reports that in one instance, only 25,000 cedis was paid on a vehicle when the estimated duty ought to have been 80,000 cedis. Here are details.
It's a 2004 VW Touareg. This confiscated vehicle was allocated to one Charles Niteko Tete. A quick online inquiry shows the import duty on this vehicle should range between 63,000 and 88,000, but it was auctioned at just about 25,000. The beneficiary provided a cover letter issued by the Office of the President of Ghana. To verify this, we sent the chassis number of the vehicle to the GRA short code 1477. It returned the make and model of the vehicle as VW Touareg and the importer as the Office of the President with a duty of 25,381 Ghana cedis paid. This amount is just about 1/3 of the estimated duty. But this is contrary to the provisions of the Customs Act 2015, which stipulates that, quote, the price at which a forfeited motor vehicle is disposed of, whether by auction, sale, allocation, or any other method, should include the duty and eligible taxes on the motor vehicle.
You go through the same process of clearance, so you pay the access duty, and then you go ahead and pay your demurrage, all the taxes, all the levies, all charges prior to release from the port.
The GRA platform shows no taxes were paid on the vehicle. Head of auction at the GRA, Prince Akwabwa, tells JoyNews his office's interest is not in who exploited the system, but whether duties were paid on the vehicle.
Office of the President.
Yes.
I think that one was allocation.
Okay.
Yes. It presupposes that a letter was received with the name Office of the President. And then when we sat on it as a committee, the letter, in fact, emphasis is not given on the name, but it surfaced that it is one of the letters considered for allocation. So we allocated the vehicle as such, and then the access duty was paid.
By normal terms, must Office of the President pay duty on a vehicle that it wants to use?
You know, Office of the President is big. So somebody writes a letter and puts Office of the President there. We are not after the name. We want somebody who can afford and who can pay the access duty. So once this letter is received, and even Office of the President who receive it, so the emphasis is not on the name. The emphasis is whether the duty was paid. And according to our checks, the duty has been paid, and it was paid by an individual.
But the duty paid was far less than what was supposed to be paid on the 2004 VW Touareg. This is not the only confiscated vehicle on which taxes were not paid. A 2010 Lexus wagon was allocated to one Daniel Akologo. The estimated duty on such a vehicle is 51,000 Ghana cedis. But it was auctioned to Cecilia Kofi at 30,000 Ghana cedis, representing a shortfall of more than 20,000 cedis. In another deal, a 2012 Hyundai Sonata was allocated to one Alexander Jedu. 16,000 Ghana cedis was paid by one Nana Kwame Ajare to the GRA on the vehicle when the estimated duty was 27,000 cedis. In this case too, the 16,000 Ghana cedis paid covered the duty. Out of the 5 vehicles sampled from the 151 confiscated cars allocated, the state could have lost an estimated duty of 130,000 Ghana cedis based on checks from the online platform duty calculator. This practice, our investigation showed, was widespread when we examined all the 151 vehicles the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff's office, Frank Asiedu-Bekwin, requested to be allocated on the 20th of December 2017. His letter to the Commissioner General of the GRA read in part, quote, "I hereby write for the consideration of the attached list of vehicles with their chassis numbers to be allocated to the corresponding names. Your usual cooperation in this regard is highly anticipated." Unquote. This request was also made on a letterhead claiming to be from the office of the President. The request was sought when Mr. Bekwin was head of the Confiscated Assets Committee. Head of auction at the GRA, Prince Akwabwa, explains that members of this committee are not supposed to make allocations. Their duty is to monitor the process.
But the fact is that if you come to Section 59 of the Customs Act 2015 Act 891, it made it clear that goods confiscated are confiscated to the state. So therefore, the state has a duty to monitor and then the disposal of those goods. So the confiscated secretariat comes in to monitor how those goods are disposed of.
So if I'm a member of the confiscated committee, my job only is to monitor. I can't allocate.
Never. Never. No allocation is done by the confiscated secretariat.
He explains how his unit deals with influential persons who apply for vehicles to be allocated to them.
We have a way of scrutinizing the letters to decipher which one is of merit. And then you can also come to the auction grounds, and the days are advertised in daily papers. You come to the auction grounds. In fact, for some reason, customs don't do the auction, the public auction. So, as you indicated, I cannot guarantee you I cannot guarantee you that you can. Once you apply, you will definitely get.
JoyNews contacted the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff's office, Frank Asiedu-Bekwin, for his comments on the matter. He declined to speak. Kwete Nate's report for JoyNews.
And Kwete Nate joins us via phone, also in studio, former chairman of the Confiscated Vehicles Committee under President Mills. Mr. Carl Wilson will share some experiences with us here on the show. So good morning to you, sir, first of all.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Kwete is joining us on phone. Kwete, good morning to you. First of all, give us some details on this expose.
So, Mamavi, it's about how some 151 vehicles allocated by the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff office, Mr. Frank Asiedu-Bekwin, were auctioned to politically connected individuals cheaply. So, based on the documents we had, on the 20th of December 2017, he requested that these vehicles be allocated to some individuals. So if you take a look at the document, which I quote, I hereby write for the consideration of the attached list of vehicles with their chassis numbers to be allocated to the corresponding names. And he indicated that he expects the Commissioner General to cooperate to cooperate in the request that he had made. And this request was also made in a letter from the office of the President. And on the letter, there is a handwritten inscription which indicates that the cars have been approved for allocation. One red flag that caught my eye during the probe was that there was this vehicle, a 2004 VW Touareg. And when we probed further, we noticed that this vehicle was allocated to one Charles Nitego Tete. The beneficiary, however, provided a cover letter issued by the office of the President. And when we entered the vehicles of the car, as in its chassis number, in the GRA short code 1477, which is to enable people to detect that a duty on a vehicle has been paid or not. We noticed that the duty on this vehicle was paid by the office of the president. And to make the picture even clearer, the confiscated car, this particular car, which was allocated to Charles Nisego Tete, it was auctioned to the office of the president at 25,000 cedis, 381. And when you run a quick online inquiry on this particular vehicle, the import duty on this vehicle ranges between 65,000 and 88,000 cedis. And the details generated by the GRA system shows that no tax was paid on the vehicle. And this amount, which we are looking at now, shows that it's 3 times lower than the estimated duty from ourselves. And we noticed that it wasn't with this car alone. It was kind of widespread. So we checked with a number of cars which were on the list of cars that had been allocated. We saw that there was a 2010 Lexus RX 350 XT wagon, which was allocated to one Daniel Akologo. The estimated duty on this vehicle was 51,000, but it was auctioned to Cecilia Kofi at 30,840, representing a shortfall of more than 20,000 cedis. And then in another deal, we noticed that a 2012 Hyundai Sonata was allocated to one Alexander Jedu. 16,000 cedis was paid by one Anapami to the DRE on this vehicle, when the estimated duty on this vehicle was 27,000 cedis. In this case, 16,000 cedis paid covered the value of the vehicle and the duty.
Kwete, also draw the line for us on what the Customs Act says on confiscated vehicles.
We've been speaking to some persons who are knowledgeable, in this act. So what they told me was that the Customs Act 2015, which stipulates that the price of a vehicle at which a forfeited motor vehicle is disposed of, whether by auction, sale, allocation, or any other method, shall include the duty and eligible taxes on the motor vehicle. But when you look at some of these vehicles that we checked in the GRA platform, the item-specific tax on them weren't paid, though the duty was paid, which appears contrary to what the law says.
And then finally, Kwete, you spoke to the Director of Political Affairs at the Chief of Staff Office. What exactly did he say?
I met him once.
Hello, Kwete. You'd have to reposition yourself. There's a break in the connection there.
Is it better now?
Yes.
I met him when I was investigating this, the findings we have uncovered, but he declined to comment on the issue.
What was the direct questioning to him?
We had a long...
Hello, Kwete? Okay, it appears... Kwete, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we seem to be having issues with the line, but largely, I think all the questions that I wanted to ask Kwete on this, we've absorbed it, so we'll let it go. That's Kwete Nate. He's producer of this reports. Reason we're having this conversation. So let's come back to the studio and speak to former chairman of the Confiscated Vehicles Committee under President Mills, Mr. Carl Wilson. Thank you very much for your time. Can you help us understand this whole allocation, how it works in the presidency?
Yeah, I've been sitting here listening to your report and giggling, laughing, and I will kind of explain how the system works to the average Ghanaian.
Great.
It should be. It's like between black and white. It should be either black or white, but it's not like
So is that simple? On paper?
On paper, it looks simple, but it is not that simple.
Okay.
Now, I understand the law was changed since I left office. And then the law as of 2015, when I did my check before on my way coming here, I saw that the new law goes strictly to auction. Strictly auction. So that's why the committee that I headed, that's supposed to be made of 3 representatives, one from the office of the president, that was me. That the one from the office of the president normally chairs the committee.
Okay.
You have a rep from Ministry of Finance, and then a rep from Custom. Ministry of Finance because of the value, the revenue and all that, and then Custom because of the duties and all that. So those are the heads, the 3 members that form the committee. We had the task of allocating. Now, confiscation by the state. When an asset, irrespective whether it's a car or any other asset, when the asset is confiscated by the state, there must be a body that should help the government dispose of it. That's what we were doing. Now, once the asset is confiscated to the state, it's deemed to belong to the state. So when people are saying that a letter comes from the office of the president for allocation or auction, there's a gray area. Can you sell a property that belongs to the government?
You tell us, you've been there.
You can't, because it already belongs to the state. So when, let's say, the office of the president needs vehicle, at my time, okay, when the office of the president needs a vehicle, they will contact the chairman. And then...
Which would be you then?
Which would be me. Then I will go in, they will call me to a meeting. Carl, we need vehicles for these purposes. Those are government purposes. Then it behoves on me now to go in and see whether those vehicles that the office of the president is requesting are in the lot that I had at the time.
Okay.
If there are, then I'll communicate back to the office of the president and give them the list of the vehicles. Then those lists now will come formally to me for allocation. No names is given.
Is it coming on a presidency letterhead, office of the president?
Letterhead, a green letterhead. That's the official letterhead.
Okay.
Which at my time, sometime I also had this thing of signing at the time when I was a chairman. Normal, it must be the green letterhead. So when I look at it, it's a photocopy you have.
Yes.
But the color is green.
Okay.
When it comes on that official letterhead, then you must comply.
So it's requesting for a number of vehicles for certain purposes?
Yes. Okay. For instance, I did give some cars to National Security at the time because I wore 2 hats from the presidency and from National Security. So when National Security makes the request, I have to give those cars to National Security. Now, when those cars goes to National Security, it goes through the normal, it must go to the normal allocation process, which means the committee will sit, allocates the vehicle to the office of, back to the office of the president, and that this, in this case, the National Security, and then those letters are printed, given to me, and I will go and submit it to the coordinator or whoever is responsible at the time. So once those are submitted, then National Security now will now go in and then pay for the value. That's
is this a reduced value?
It is normally a reduced value. That's why I'm saying that there's a gray area. To the average Ghanaian, okay, the car comes in, duty and eligible taxes must be paid. It's not that.
So what we see on paper is not exactly what happens.
It's not exactly what.
Whether there's a law or not.
Not really. We don't abuse the law. We didn't abuse the law. No, but I can tell you that when a value is given to an allocated car, the value doesn't necessarily meet or maybe equal the actual duty that is supposed to pay. I heard your reporter said he checked and the duty was supposed to be 51,000.
There was a certain range.
And then what was paid was 30,000. Okay? It's not that simple. The criteria custom uses, you remember there's a custom representative on the committee. The criteria the custom uses to calculate the value differs from, so normally, let me just put it this way, normally the allocated value, not auction value, the allocated value is normally lower than the actual duty of the
okay,
cars. Because there's a lot that goes into that.
Persons connected politically,
yes,
So that's different from individuals. If
Yes.
you're buying an auction, then you do exactly what is on paper.
No, no.
But
really.
if you're politically
No,
connected, then
no,
you get...
No, we didn't do things differently to suit our political friends or maybe people that apply. You see, at my time, we didn't have anything like political friends or maybe
Oh,
the normal
political
citizens.
friends have always been there.
No, we
Mr.
didn't
Wilson.
have. For instance, you see, with me, actually, President Mills told me, Carl, save my people. My people doesn't mean people wearing NDC colors or MPP colors. My people are Ghanaians. The people for the president are Ghanaians.
But there's a difference between the system that runs today because of the law that we have and what you used to run.
Yes.
Explain what's different today.
I can see that there's a lot of abuse of office in this from the little I've heard.
Well, if there's a law, it should cut down on the abuse.
Yeah, but
or
you can
prevent...
clearly see an abuse of office because I'm not criticizing the one in charge, but I know the committee doesn't function like the way we function. They are just to supervise what is going on.
As in
they don't allocate.
The committee today.
The committee today.
Okay.
They didn't have the powers we had.
Okay.
We had tremendously a lot of power at the time. This committee doesn't have. They go in, they are there to supervise whatever goes on as far as auction is concerned.
Okay.
When I understand that the new law here specifies only on auction, and then I'm hearing allocation. Where does the allocation come in? Where does allocation come in? How can the supposed head, the head of political affairs, that's the title now, how can you write a letter with names on it? Those names, who are they? Cronies? Ghanaians? If they are Ghanaians, allow them to go in personally, write the letter to the committee and apply. That's what's supposed to be.
Do the individuals, the letters for individuals come in the name of the presidency?
No, really. In my time, no. Any individual, you can apply. You can apply to me. It doesn't have to come from the office of the president. As long as you are a Ghanaian, you apply. If the cards are available, you are allocated. That's why it is called allocation. Now, the law specifies auction. The new law specifies auction. So where does the allocation come in? And now the head from the office of the president have to have a whole list with names attached and a requesting that cards be allocated to these individuals. Who are they? So I wouldn't so much begrudge your reporter when he sees that. Number one, it smells of cronyism. That's what is going on. Because, number one, the rep from the office of representative makes a list, attach names to it, and then send a list with specific requests. Allocate the cash to these people. And now, two, those cash are allocated, not only that they didn't carry the normal value, the values are depreciated. They are lower than the normal value. So the ordinary citizen will question what exactly is going on. So you are right to be asking this question, what is going on? There's clearly an abuse of office here.
How do we streamline things so that people politically connected are not the only persons benefiting? I mean, I need a new vehicle. I will deal with one of the auction vehicles because, they come in certain classes.
Are we talking about auction or allocation?
Okay, so that seems to be the issue.
That seems to be the issue. Because when you talk of allocation, there's a process you have to go through. There's a committee. You apply to the committee.
That's allocation.
Allocation as individual, as Ghanaian.
Asset functioned under
us.
Okay. If it is auction, how should it work?
Auction, you have auctioneers. Government's hands is off. As the reporter rightly said, the government's hands is off. If it's auction, you have licensed auctioneers that will come in. The cars will be marked, gazetted. Once the cars are gazetted, it goes to the appropriate authorities. Now the auctioneers will be informed. They will come in, vehicles will be shown to them. They will choose a date for the auction. The date must be communicated to the entire public. The public goes in, auction takes place. Mama V, you get your car, you pay, you take your car. And an auction value can never equal duty value. It's always lower. Anything that is auction in normal parlance. Anything that's auction, you buy it as auction, is cheaper. So you can't, if the reporter has auction cars at 30,000 instead of 51,000 normal duty, and then he's complaining, then he's wrong.
Okay.
If it's allocated, then then he's right. If it's allocated with a lower value, he may be right.
Can an auction be going on and allocation be made?
That's why you have to clearly, government have to tell us. You change the law to specify auction. So why is allocation still going on? The committee doesn't exist the same way it existed under me, under President Mills. It doesn't exist anymore. So what exactly are you doing? Did you change the law to benefit your people, whereby you have auction to a specific group of people while you're using the allocation for your own cronies? Is that what is going on? The question must be asked. Maybe you guys have to dig deeper, and then whenever you need me, I'm available.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's good you're here. Who should we be directing these questions to? Because clearly, in this report, we've gone to customs.
Yes. Custom is supposed to give you all the details of the law, the specification under the law, what the law says. They're also supposed to tell you, whether it is auction or allocation. They're also supposed to give you the parameters under which they calculate the allocated values of the car. They cannot talk to you about auction, they can talk to you about allocation. Custom doesn't have control over the auction value. The auctioneers do.
Yeah. Okay. We went to the office of the president as well.
Yes.
The person whose name's mentioned
Yes.
didn't speak.
He wouldn't like
Who
to
should
talk to
be
you.
answering the questions from the office of the president?
Yeah, he's supposed to make himself available under me. Whenever you call me, I came. Even though there were hula baloo about Caruso at the time,
Yes.
Whenever the media calls me, I come to answer. Because you are serving the state. In this case, he's not serving, he's serving under the office of the president, but he's serving the country. He's put in a position to work for the state.
But this is a person who is in the chief of staff's office.
Yes.
So
regardless, he's working for the state. It's your taxes that is being used to pay him. So it's answerable to who? To the office of the president or to you? It's answerable to you, to us. So when you call him, you go to him, he doesn't want to answer. Why doesn't he want to answer if there's nothing to hide? To the average Ghanaian, you can see an abuse of office. If you, as per the description, if the description of the process is right, where he has a green letter, the green letter is very powerful. When you are doing anything in this country, and the green letter comes to you from the office of, you must do what the green letter tell you. It's coming directly from the president. You must do it.
So you don't question it at all?
You can't question it because if you question it, you go back to where the letter comes from the office of the president. If you have any question, you ask them, they will explain to you. But you can't question what the letter is asking you to do. No, you can't. It's like you are challenging the president. That's how it is. So the green letter comes to you, you must. So is he abusing the office of the president to serve cronies? That is what it is looking, like to me.
Where do we go from here?
We have to know whether they change the law, what the law says. The law says, according to what I heard this morning, I did my checks, the law says auction. So at what point does the allocation come in? And for what purpose? Allocation under my time was done to dispose of government's assets to everybody that wants them. That's what allocation is for. Anybody that wants a vehicle or a chair that is confiscated to the state, you can go in, you made a request, it's allocated to you. Normally the value is lower. Okay? But if they have this new law in, I know they had a lot of problems when they came into office. I was called, I was asked for help and things. They had a lot of problems. They didn't know exactly how to channel this whole committee allocation issue. So finally, when the law was changed, I knew it's normal. They will do that. Now, the law is changed, it's auction. Now we're hearing about allocation. So where do we go from here? Your reporter has to dig deeper to establish the difference between a car that is auctioned and one that is allocated. Then we can pursue this further.
Okay, which state institution could help us in this?
Allocation, you have to go to customs.
Okay, that you've mentioned.
Yes, allocation, you have to go to customs.
Auction, you said that's private.
That's private, but the office of the president is controlling it. They have a committee, including the custom officer that was on your.
Do you expect, because you know there's a level to which we can go, a private media house, and that's a reporter doing his job.
Yeah. A good job, if I have to say.
Great, thank you. Do you expect that any state institution or any institution would pick this up?
Would they be willing to? Would there be a political will, especially in this election year, to do it? Those vehicles that went out, to the 151 vehicles that went out, who do they go to? Average Ghanaian or political cronies? That's the question.
If there was political will, who would you expect?
If there's a political will, police doesn't come into this, probably national security or the BNI.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. So that's what I asked. That's what I had at the back of my mind. I said, will there be a political will to do this?
Mr.
But you see, this is a Ghanaian problem. It's our money. It's our. If we are losing revenue, we worked. Despite the hula balu, we worked.
Maybe there were things only because there were no reporter followed up on anything. There are things that we don't know.
In this case, as I said, that you did a good job, because normal reporter will not dig as deep as you guys have done to uncover all of this. Having a letter from the office of the president, having access to it and all that, you have done a good job. Now, we must get to the bottom of it. The chairman, I don't know, his name is what? Political Affairs Office?
Let me get that correctly, but
yes, he has to come out and speak on this and explain to the Ghanaians what is going on.
So that's the Director of Political Affairs, the Chief of Staff Office.
Yes, Director of Political Affairs. He must come out. He must speak to the people of this country. He must speak to you. He must come on your show and explain.
Mr. Carl Wilson, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
you for explaining matters to us on this.
I hope I was of help.
Absolutely, because it's hard to know how things work. So to get an inside person to share experience, that's we're grateful to you for your time this morning.